All right, well, hello everyone. Good afternoon, welcome. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate you all being here. It's really great to see these new groups forming down here in South Jersey. I'm personally not too familiar with South Jersey, based up in West Orange and North Jersey, but it's really terrific to see. Bill was telling me the Camden group just over a year ago, or close to a year ago, and Janice with the Gloucester group just starting a couple of years ago. So this kind of growth of community-oriented groups is terrific. I'm really happy to see that. I'm happy to see all of you, and I wish you all the best success with it. I hope it's going to go well. I hope you enjoy the activities. You know, when I was growing up, myself in my teens and 20s, there was no groups like this. You know, even the New Jersey Humanist Network didn't exist then. It's only been around for 20 years. Your groups down here didn't exist. There's a group in Red Bank, New Jersey, Red Bank Humanists, that didn't exist then. So, you know, I see some of you are maybe around my age or thereabouts. I don't want to guess anybody's age, but you know that back when we were youngsters, in our teens and 20s, there were no groups like this. There are some groups, but they're much fewer and much harder to know about and to, you know, get involved in. So this kind of growth is just terrific. And that aspect of community building is really vital in my opinion. I'm going to talk about that in relation to human light also in a few minutes, you'll see. So I want to start off with just a brief note about terminology, about the words religion and religious. I know that there is sometimes disagreement in different humanist-oriented groups about what these words mean, religion and religious, and how to use them. I don't know, you know, how it is in your group here, because I haven't spoken to anybody here about that. But generally, there's like 2 points of view on it. Some humanists view the word religion and religious to refer to a life stance in general, a philosophy of life, a way of organizing around congregations or community, and that it's not theistic or supernatural or having supernatural beliefs. So their use of the term religion means that they're humanists, but they're also religious, and to them it means it's not theistic. And I think this is very common in, for instance, ethical culture groups, if you're familiar with the Ethical Culture Society. But then there's other humanists, probably the majority, who, when they use the word religion or religious, they're referring to supernatural theistic beliefs. And that's what they mean. So they consider themselves humanists, but not religious. And, to avoid confusion, I just wanted to mention that because throughout my talk, you're going to hear me using these terms quite a bit, and I always use them in the latter sense. So when I say religious or religion, that to me means a set of theistic and supernatural beliefs. And when I use non-religious, that refers to people who do not have theistic and supernatural beliefs, however else they may understand the term. That's my usage. I want to make sure everybody understands that. So I'm going to discuss various issues and questions that often come up relating to Human Light, the holiday, and then we're going to have a short video to show you after I go through my talk, and then I'll be glad to take any questions, so if you could please hold off questions to the end, I'd appreciate it. If anybody in the back can't hear me, feel free to come up front like this gentleman just did and come sit up closer if you like. I'm not a yeller. I'll try, but I can't say that I'm, you know, like a stentorian speaker. Okay. I also brought with me a display up here, a display table you can look at, and you can discuss that later if you like. Hopefully that'll generate some interest. So by a show of hands, how many have heard of Human Light before? Most? Okay. How many have heard of it but are not really that familiar with it? Okay. All right, good. So let me tell you a little bit about the history of Human Light. The concept of a Human Light holiday was originally developed in the period 1999 through 2001 at the New Jersey Humanist Network, and primarily by two of our leaders there at the time, Joe Fox and Gary Brill. and they were and are longtime activists and leaders in the humanist movement here in New Jersey and also Eastern Pennsylvania. Some of you may have known Joe Fox. Sadly, he passed away just last year. And you may also know Gary Brill, who is presently president of the NJHN. Although I was personally not there at those initial early discussions, I did become involved right away in 2001 when the first Human Light was celebrated, and I've been involved ever since in the ongoing efforts to promote public awareness and to develop the concepts and the meanings of human light as a holiday. The main idea that sparked it all was a discussion that comes up frequently in humanist-oriented groups, usually comes up around this time of year. How should we respond to December religious holidays? How does this fit into our lives and our families, right? So we decided back then to actually do something about it rather than just talk about it and complain or whatever. So that's how this groundbreaking initiative was born. The bold initiative to create a new holiday, something that doesn't occur every day, right? I'm sure you know. And this effort was fostered within the New Jersey Humanist Network, and also at the time in the early stages, also in conjunction with the New Jersey branch of the Center for Inquiry, which existed at that time but does not exist anymore. So then after that, the Human Light Committee was formed. We're a small nonprofit volunteer group, and we work to promote awareness of human light. We maintain a website, humanlight.org, and also the Facebook group, Human Light. And this serves as a central clearinghouse of information and resources about human light. And then we also do appearances in the media or presentations at conferences and so forth in order to spread the word. As part of the Human Light Committee, I do a lot of public outreach to promote awareness of the holiday. And unfortunately, most of the non-religious or humanist community is still not aware of it. So there's quite a lot of work to be done. And we have zero budget and no funding whatsoever, so it can be difficult. But yet it's always very inspiring me to know that we're helping to build and create something that other people around the country and around the world really find meaningful and they want to participate in and they enjoy, and that's very inspiring. Various kinds of secular, free-thought, humanist, and atheist groups have begun to adopt human light as a part of their December holiday traditions. Since 2004, the American Humanist Association, it's a national organization, I think some of you are familiar with it. Since 2004, they have recognized the holiday as a valuable contribution to secular family life and to humanist community building. And the AHA has been very supportive of our efforts over the years. Really appreciate that. Also, the late Dr. Paul Kurtz. Some of you may have known Paul Kurtz, one of the greatest American humanist leaders of the last 40 years. He attended the very first Human Light celebration in 2001, and we were very proud of that. And he also came back to New Jersey in 2010 to celebrate Human Light again. Unfortunately, he also passed away last year. So a little something about holidays. Holidays can bring people together. They allow us to feel a part of a family, a part of a community. We have traditions that center around family, friends, and community gatherings, and it's a great way to enhance our lives in a positive, meaningful way, and to form social bonds. This is one of the functions of having holiday celebrations. Doing things together as a family or as part of a wider community helps form these social bonds, and we become part of each other's lives in a meaningful way. And it develops a sense of belonging and connection. But we are forward-thinking, progressive people, and we don't have to blindly follow holiday traditions that were based on supernatural religious beliefs that we no longer believe in or don't accept personally. And we don't have to just follow along with that's how we were raised, or because we were raised that way, quote unquote. We can decide for ourselves what kind of holidays and traditions to follow or to create anew. And this is an important aspect of the humanist philosophy, that we have the right and the responsibility to create our own purpose and meaning in our lives, and not just follow along with what's handed down in ancient books, right? So what is human life? Janice mentioned briefly. Some of you are somewhat familiar. Human Light is a secular holiday on December 23rd, and it's celebrated around the world since 2001. The Human Light holiday is an occasion for many people who are non-religious, non-theistic, secular, free thinkers, humanists, atheists, agnostics, to create their own meaningful traditions and to help express in a positive way human values that they share. So it's never too late to create your own new traditions. The Human Light is designed to celebrate and to express positive secular human values such as reason, compassion, humanity, and hope. Human Light illuminates a positive secular vision, a vision of a happy, just, and peaceful future for our world, a future which humanity can build by working together, drawing upon the best of our human capacities and the best of our human nature. The very first celebration of Human Light was held in December 2001 in Verona, New Jersey. Almost 100 people attended, much to our surprise. So it was a big success right away. A couple of the local newspapers even sent reporters to cover this amazing event. Ever since then, Human Light celebrations have been spreading around. In 2010 and 2011, there were approximately 30 cities in the US, Canada, and the UK where public celebrations of Human Light were held. But I want to emphasize these 30 cities these are only the ones that we know about. Okay? It's very likely that there were more that we don't know about. And of course, in addition, many families and individuals celebrate the holiday privately at home. There's no reliable way to keep track of this sort of thing, to know how many individuals are celebrating Human Light in their home, and there's no law that says everyone who celebrates Human Light has to tell me about it, right? I hope they do, and we ask that as much as we can, but who knows? It's out there. We've created a meme, so to speak. It's out in the public ether now. The name Human Light, many people ask what that is about. That name was chosen for its emphasis on humanity as opposed to the supernatural, and also the light of reason. So Human Light connotes the proverbial candle in the dark metaphor, suggesting that the hope for our future rests on human accomplishments that are guided first and foremost by the unique human capacities for reason and compassion. Human Light Day is December 23rd, and it's celebrated on or around that day. It is more or less a movable feast, quote unquote. If people are holding a public event and it's around that time, it's often convenient to do it on the weekend or whatever weekend is close to December 23rd. But of course, any holiday has to have a specific date. December 23rd was chosen as a date so that it would not conflict with other holidays that people may be celebrating at that time with their friends and family. Other holidays such as Hanukkah, Solstice, Christmas, Boxing Day, Eid, Kwanzaa, New Year's Eve. That's everything in December, I think, or at least most of them. So we don't expect people to suddenly abandon whatever holiday traditions they may already have, but hopefully they begin to understand the value of Human Light and adopt that as a new holiday tradition. At the same time, December 23rd as a date places the holiday squarely within what has come to be the December holiday season, as I mentioned, all the other holidays that are there already. So that makes it convenient for times when people have vacations or time off from work or social gatherings that are commonly occurring with friends and family in this holiday season period. Here. That reminds me about the holiday season. I'm really glad that we'll be able to celebrate Human Light again this year. I was afraid that last year might have been the last time to celebrate Human Light because there was that Mayan apocalypse last year in December that caused the end of the world. Right? Oh, that's right. It didn't happen. Okay, never mind. So I was telling a friend recently that I was coming down here to talk about Human Light. And she said, that's just a made-up holiday. I said, all holidays were made up at some point in the past, right? There's holidays like July 4th that is based on an actual historical event. But even there, some folks had to at some point decide, hey, let's make a holiday to celebrate July 4th. Other holidays like Labor Day or Memorial Day were created and made up to celebrate some concept, some idea, whatever. And so it was with Human Light. It was made up. It was created. You could say it was an intelligent design. So it's been designed to celebrate and express positive human values and hopes and ideals that we share. Secular values such as reason, compassion, humanity, and hope. Perhaps because the origins of Human Light are within our recent memory, it seems strange to some people to see, a new holiday is forming. Many of the other holidays we're used to originated so long ago, no one remembers, or even ancient times even. So we wonder, will it ever reach a stage in the distant future where Human Light is so commonplace and so accepted and so well known that nobody will remember who created it or when? Well, we hope so. We hope that's going to happen, right? On the other hand, will there come a day perhaps when people in the future lose all understanding of what the holiday means like they have with Labor Day? Well, we hope not. That's not going to happen, hopefully. And that reminds me of something that I hope to see someday occur in my lifetime. I want to show you a little something here. Hopefully you can see this. This is a brochure from the United States Postal Service, from the post office. It's about how to order holiday stamps, right? And it has on it a Hanukkah stamp with the menorah. There's a Christmas stamp with baby Jesus and Mary. There's an Eid stamp. There's a Kwanzaa stamp. A snowman stamp, reindeer stamp, or whatever. I'm hoping someday in the future there's going to be a Human Light stamp on here from the post office. It's very important to know about Human Light that it's not intended to be negative or critical of other holidays. And I mentioned these other holidays only by way of example, not to criticize. So we're not trying to be anti-Christmas, let's say. That's not about what it is. We're not trying to secularize Christmas. We're not trying to reinterpret anything, an existing religious holiday, into some new meaning. This is a new holiday and a new idea on its own. It's not offensive to Christians who celebrate Christmas, so it cannot be dragged into that media hype about the so-called war on Christmas. Irrelevant. It's not about criticizing what we don't believe in. It's about, instead, celebrating and expressing in a positive way what we do believe in. And by celebrating Human Light, we help to shine a light on an important fact for our family and friends in the wider community, the general public. And that is the fact that you don't need supernatural religious beliefs in order to lead a good, ethical, and meaningful life. You can do good and be good without God. So what do we mean by humanist ideas and values? I suspect most of you here have a pretty good idea already what humanism is, but if you were to ask very religious people, for instance, they might say that atheists and humanists are immoral, or can't be moral, let's say, or that you hate God, or you are a lost soul, for instance. They may even say that we eat babies and puppies for lunch. Was there any puppy soup on the menu today? I didn't see it.
No. I just had flatbread.
Missed it. Well, you might not hear that sort of thing too much around New Jersey, at least not out loud or to your face, but that is a common view that's out there, especially amongst those who are very devoutly religious. So we need to create public awareness of humanist secular ethics in order to counter these misconceptions. We know that the more we explain and demonstrate what humanism is all about, the more people will say that they come to realize they really do agree with these humanist concepts and ideas. They just didn't know that, right? Quite often we encounter people who say, in effect, oh yes, I believe in all that humanist stuff. I just never knew that was called humanism, and I didn't know there was any humanist groups around or organizations or whatever. So the basic ideas, as I mentioned, are celebrating human life, are reason, compassion, humanity, and hope. And that covers a lot of ground, obviously. We want to keep things simple and easy, fairly short concepts, whatever. So the holiday is it's a positive expression and celebration of these ideas and values. Reason means we believe in using science, evidence, and human rational thought to understand the universe and to address problems without supernatural entities or beliefs. And by universe, I mean everything, not just outer space. We believe in secular ethics based upon human needs and interests with compassion and deep concern for human rights. That's being good and doing good without God. Secular ethics. We have hope and a positive vision for a better future. For ourselves, for all of humanity, a future of greater peace and social justice, a future that people can build in the here and now, not in an afterlife, and they can do that by working together and drawing upon the best of our human capacities. Yes, of course, it will be very hard to build this future, but without hope, very little positive change can happen. And we are not expecting any divine intervention to help us get there. It's up to us. So this humanist vision and these values are very positive, very uplifting, very life-affirming. We have a lot to celebrate. So why shouldn't there be a holiday for that? And that's why I often say, thank God for human light. But seriously, I want to also get into a little bit two other alternative ways of coping with this December holiday problem that I mentioned. And there are two other common ways that have become common amongst non-theists, especially in the United States, especially where we are subjected to pervasive Christmas propaganda for the last 6 weeks of every year. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's in the media and it's pervasive in all the culture. Christmas, 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 every year. So people have developed other alternatives in the past of dealing with this. One is celebrating the so-called secular Christmas, and the other is celebrating of the solstice, the winter solstice. So let me look at the secular Christmas concept first. It's true that many people do experience Christmas in a more or less secular way. They have lots of shopping, eating, drinking, family visits, and so forth. But doing that doesn't change the facts of the true meaning of Christmas, especially amongst those who are practicing Christians. And that is the vast majority of the population, as you know. So if you're not a believing Christian, but you are attempting to celebrate a secular Christmas, then you inevitably have to explain that somehow. And that can cause possible confusion or sending mixed messages to your family and friends. You may even risk being seen as some kind of hypocrite, that you're afraid to admit that you're not really a Christian, or you're somehow trying to hide your non-Christian beliefs by participating in Christmas or whatever. Many people have said they feel a sense of inner dishonesty when they do this, and they play along with the Christmas and Santa Claus myths, which they know aren't true, and they feel that they're not being true to themselves. If your children or family know that you don't practice or believe in Christianity, but they see that you're celebrating Christmas anyway, this may lead them to think that you're really not that serious about those supposed humanist beliefs of yours. And if you think that the Santa Claus myths are just harmless fun for children, I would strongly disagree with that. In my view, Santa Claus is what I would call his starter god for children, right? Exactly like God, Santa knows everything you do and judges you as being naughty or nice. This conditions kids into a supernatural, magical thinking, okay, that makes them probably more readily able to accept similar magical thinking later on when it comes to other things. So that can be pernicious. In addition, if you're celebrating a secular Christmas, then one would ask, what are you celebrating? What is it going on there? Not the virgin birth of the Messiah, I presume, right? So if you don't accept these supernatural myths that Christmas is based upon, then what does Christmas mean? Maybe you ought to, not you, I mean personally, but one, let's say, one ought to call it something else, not Christmas. Some people have jokingly called it Giftmas, as a way to, as a reference to the kind of excessive materialism and commercialism that is rampant. And I am aware, of course, over time that different Christmas traditions or notions have really been pasted onto previously existing pagan ideas and customs. But that, although that is true, that doesn't really erase the history of what has happened since the Christian era began, and it doesn't change the way things are now. Even more importantly, trying to make Christmas more secular can be seen as offensive or insulting to Christians. Are you trying to take the Christ out of Christmas, quote unquote? Many Christians would find that offensive, and perhaps with some justification. It is a bit paradoxical, in my view, that the attempt to secularize Christmas is both an insult to Christians, while at the same time it's kind of a surrender to the domination of our culture by Christian beliefs. So I would say, why create these possible conflicts and antagonisms with others by trying to change or reinterpret an established religious holiday? I would add that this may not really even be possible to do. You see, I think it's just an illusion to think that you can redefine Christmas into a secular holiday in your own private way. We don't get to define holidays individually or privately. The idea of a popular holiday is rooted in the shared cultural meanings. As long as the dominant Christian culture defines Christmas in a certain way, you are not able to really redefine it in some other way. To pretend to do so, I believe, is really just kidding yourself. Again, what you may think it means to you in your own private view does not change what the majority of Christians think, and does not change the broader cultural meanings that are more or less accepted by most people. And obviously, most Christians are never going to accept a bunch of atheists trying to define what Christmas is, right? Now, the second concept is about the winter solstice, or December solstice, because in the southern hemisphere that's not winter, but the solstice. Many non-theists do observe and celebrate the solstice. There are two essential points I would ask people to consider. Number one, the solstice is a natural event that occurs in the solar system. It's an important fact of nature, and especially in our ancestors' time, it was of great importance in their farming lives. The change of seasons was critical to agrarian societies before there was any kind of technologies. But the way the earth rotates and causes the seasons to change does not have any intrinsic human meaning. It is not based on any human ideas or values. Many people in the northern hemisphere, including myself, are just glad to see the solstice come, because that means the longer daylight hours will be returning, and that's terrific. But does it mean anything more than that? Also, celebrating the solstice as a holiday is a practice that is rooted in and based upon pagan religious beliefs and traditions in the past, and in the current present as well. Pagans worship the sun god and have other theistic and supernatural beliefs. Now, if you are an actual pagan of some sort, that's fine. I completely respect people's freedom to worship that way. But if one is not an actual pagan and you're celebrating the solstice, you again have to ask, what are you celebrating? Is it the way the earth rotates? Change of seasons? Those are important things in nature, and I do think it's good to mark the change of seasons, and I do, of course, enjoy the wonders and the beauties of nature. But there's something important missing, in my view. A sense of meaning about life, about our hopes and our values. In point of fact, it seems to me that most humanist-oriented people who are celebrating winter solstice originally began doing so for some of the reasons I stated before, because there was no other December holiday that they could honestly practice or take seriously. They were probably looking for some way to participate in the December holiday season without being overtly religious. And since the solstice itself is truly the reason for the fact that there is a December holiday season, that's the original reason, and that's why most religions have created December holidays to begin with. So it would seem to humanist people that the solstice was the best fit for them to observe as a holiday. I do realize that there are many non-religious people who have developed over time traditions around celebrating the December solstice and its nature aspects, let's say. Although, as I said, it does also carry these certain pagan baggage to it. But nevertheless, the solstice does not have any intrinsic human-oriented value or meaning. So, over the past 12 years, however, many people have found a new, vibrant, alternative, and meaningful December holiday, and that's human light. So for secular and humanist-oriented people, it is a truly authentic, appropriate, and meaningful holiday. It doesn't have to be explained away, it doesn't have to be justified, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to perform any mental gymnastics, all right, to participate in celebrating human life. And there are a number of groups and individuals who, over the past 12 years, have taken to holding combined celebrations of both the solstice and human light in order to recognize their previously existing traditions around solstice celebrations and its nature aspects. And then that's a great way to develop and incorporate new traditions into previously existing ones. So that's a good idea in my view, if it's applicable. So in summary then, I would say that celebrating human light avoids the confusion and potential pitfalls and conflicts that come from the idea of a secular Christmas. And it doesn't have to be explained away or reinterpreted in any way, and human light is not rooted in any existing religious traditions. And in addition, it provides the essential, important human meaning and values that a solstice holiday celebration lacks. Perhaps most importantly, celebrating human light also helps to build the humanist community. How does it do that? Well, some non-religious people feel isolated and alienated from the rest of society during the December holidays, as I've mentioned. They don't feel that they can honestly participate in religion-based activities. Yet they may be unaware that there are like-minded humanist groups and individuals out there. And they are, most of these types of groups are small and not well known. So it's easy for the average person to be unaware of these kinds of activities and organizations that are not religious. In my own personal experience, after I had separated from the religion of my childhood, I used to feel pretty bummed out in December. During November and December, pervasively throughout our culture and all the media, Christmas is in my face. And I felt no connection to it, so it creates a sense of alienation. And family conflicts would occur, of course, if I ever dared to openly say that I no longer believed in the Jesus myths. So it would be embarrassing or annoying sometimes to have people automatically assume that you're practicing and celebrating Christmas. And you would get asked pretty often, "Oh, what'd you do for Christmas?" I don't do anything for Christmas. Then you got to explain that. It's embarrassing. So the other thing is to this day, and I don't know about you guys, but I still can't get those Christmas carols out of my head. They're so catchy, those Christmas songs, and you hear them every year over and over wherever you go, right? For 6 weeks every year, Christmas carols. You never lose it. So, but when Human Light came along as a new holiday, it was immediately apparent to me that there was great value in having an authentically meaningful secular holiday in December. One that was not rooted in any religious ideas. What a great idea, I said, right? And many people have said that. So a public Human Light celebration helps to reach out to such like-minded people in the community, helps them find a shared sense of belonging, and so that they know they're not alone. And we got a pretty amazing example of this exactly from an email we received from someone in Iran. A couple of years ago, an email came from Iran. I'll read it. Throat's getting dry. He says, "I live in a small town in north of Iran. I came across your website," he means Human Light website, "and I studied its content. It made me infinitely happy to get informed that there is in reality a holiday for non-religious people around the world to celebrate. I have always, since I converted to humanism, and I used to be a Muslim, I have shied away from Islamic holidays. Now I have a solid surrogate. You understand, it's excruciating for a humanist to live in a sea of self-righteous Muslims. I have some secular friends, and I'm just venting, you understand. But anyways, a friend of mine and I are going to throw a little gala for ourselves tomorrow evening, and I feel obliged to thank you since you are the cause of it. I would be happy if I could do anything to be a part of Human Light." So you see, it doesn't, isn't it? It doesn't only apply to us in the Christmas Christian hype here in the U.S. This idea is common elsewhere. And also I would say for humanist-oriented families who have children, I believe it's very important for children to understand that the family is part of a larger supportive community of people with shared values and who have a positive outlook on life. That's very beneficial. So we must communicate this vital message to our children. Non-religious families may be in the minority, but we're certainly not alone in holding to our secular ethics and beliefs. There's nothing wrong with our family for not celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah. And it's always great at our NJHN Human Light parties every year when we have 15 or so young children running around, having fun, enjoying the celebration. We go out of our way to ensure the celebration is family friendly. Now there's another aspect of community building, and that has to do with the media. Public Human Light celebrations have often attracted attention from the news media because it's still something that's very new. And we have many reports of newspapers or other media who are interested in covering the fact that some group is celebrating Human Light. This kind of publicity helps to reach out again, to spreading the word and awareness to other like-minded people who are out there who don't know that there is some humanist-oriented or secular group in their area. And it also, in addition, helps, media publicity helps to build a public awareness amongst the other parts of the general public, to let them know that there is a valid, acceptable secular, non-religious group of people in their midst. It helps inform them of who we are and that we're here. Now, I had a great example of this recently from the Voice of America. The Voice of America News did a report. I'll read from it. Quote, the title, "Some atheists celebrate their own holiday." All over the United States, people are celebrating Christmas. People of other faiths also have their holidays, but a minority of Americans who do not believe in religion can feel left out during this time of the year. One group has created its own secular holiday, and they're hoping it will catch on. Phil Kalmanson deep fries a whole turkey at his home in Laurel, Maryland. He's preparing a feast. Dozens of guests have gathered in his home to celebrate the secular holiday called Human Light, which falls 2 days before Christmas. His wife, Jenny, says this can be a lonely time of year for humanists and other kinds of atheists. Everybody's got their Hanukkah parties and their Christmas parties and their Kwanzaa parties. It's easy for us to feel a little bit left out, she said. Humanists believe in the supremacy of human reason. They say they're not against religion, but they just don't believe it's necessary to make the world a better place. Kalmanson is an aerospace engineer and worked on the Hubble Space Telescope. She says that Human Light celebrates the light of human knowledge. The whole point of humanism is that it is possible, and in fact desirable, to live a good life, a moral life, and a happy life, and you do not need God to do that. Around Christmas time, most Americans everywhere partake in the Christian holiday traditions, especially of giving presents. But a recent survey by the National Opinion Research Center found that 17% of Americans do not identify with any faith. Another poll amongst first-year university students found the figure was almost 25%. And I would add that this was an article from 3 years ago. So this is an explanation of how celebrating human life helps to strengthen the humanist community, as well as build greater awareness in the larger community that we exist, that humanist communities are out there. I mentioned earlier that Human Light helps express who we are and what we believe. And that reminds me of something else. A few years ago, there was a newspaper article about the holidays, and it said, quote, "The atheists now have their own holiday called Human Light." My first reaction was, well, I'm glad they've noticed. But at the same time, you may have heard there's a little bit of confusion there. Because as I've often explained, I am an atheist, and I think most humanists are. And that means I don't believe in supernatural beings like Santa Claus or God, and I don't accept faith-based claims. We need evidence-based claims. But as I've been saying, Human Light is not about what we don't believe in. It's not about negating theism, okay? It's definitely not about criticizing or reinterpreting or secularizing any religious holiday. Instead, it's an occasion to celebrate and express positive secular human values and hopes, the things we do believe in. Now, many people often ask, how do you celebrate Human Light? What is it? What do you do? Right? You may have heard that. So the underlying assumption to this question is that there must be some specific prescribed ritual or ceremony that is, quote, required to celebrate Human Light. But guess what? There are no preset rules for how to celebrate Human Light. There is no holy text to read. There is, however, a secret handshake, which I'll show it to you later. But seriously, because humanists and free thinkers tend to avoid dogma and to avoid rigid thinking, the specific activities involved in any Human Light celebration are left open to invention and creativity, and they will vary from place to place. It will differ depending upon the interests of those involved. What we do have are just a couple of suggested guidelines or general principles about celebrating human life, which can be applied to any specific event or activity. And of course, I've already been referring to these principles before, and this forms the essential meaning and purpose of the Human Light Holiday. Number one, in celebrating human light, there should be some component, either a little or a lot, which serves in some way to celebrate and express humanist-oriented values and ideals in a positive way. How this is done and to what degree is, of course, up to the discretion and creativity of those involved in the celebration. But this idea is essential in the heart of what the holiday is all about. Number two essential principle: those of us who have created and developed the Human Light Holiday believe firmly that the holiday should not be used as an occasion for negative criticism of religion or religious people. It is strongly recommended that celebration should maintain a positive, festive approach while avoiding negative criticism of religion or religious holidays. And this is also a central concept of what human light means, and it cannot be emphasized enough. Of course, there is a valid time and place for criticizing religious beliefs and practices, and often that is very necessary. I completely agree with that. But we feel strongly that the Human Light celebration should not be used for this purpose. It should be open and welcoming to all our friends and family, regardless of their religious beliefs. It should not be seen as an attack upon those who are religious, but rather as something that they might like to learn about if it's being presented in a tolerant atmosphere. Remember that as humanists with a progressive vision of a better future, we are hoping to demonstrate to the wider community that we have something valuable and positive to offer, a positive ethical philosophy of life, and that we're not just interested exclusively in criticizing other people's beliefs. That is important in its own place and time. And by demonstrating to the wider community, of course, I don't mean the fanatical religious extremists. Those are never going to be even willing to listen to us. I'm talking about the rest of the average community who are reasonable people and who are not fanatical extremists. Those are the people we're trying to demonstrate this idea to. Now, in addition, another thing that can be helpful or useful for it, and this applies when you're having a public group celebration event, if it's possible, may not be applicable to everybody, but we think it's important to have a family-oriented, children-friendly atmosphere in a Human Light celebration. And so that, for the reason so that people who have children will not hesitate to attend with their children and join in together. So this helps build a sense of community and family bonding, which is extremely important. Bringing children to a Human Light celebration, a celebration that is welcoming and open to children, helps to convey the importance of the family's commitment to these humanist ideas and beliefs. Convey that to your children. The importance, I mentioned earlier, the importance of children seeing their humanist family as part of a community of other people with shared values. This is critical. So now I'd like to touch on a little bit of some specifics about what's been involved in celebrations of Human Light that I've attended or heard about. And of course, obviously the main thing is some kind of shared meal, food and drinks. It's key to any social gathering, I'm sure you know. Also, things like live music, dancing, festive decorations, entertainment, including educational entertainment for children, short talks or readings, fun activities. These are all elements that can be involved in celebrating human life. Charitable giving is also a common feature in many celebrations. Some groups gather donations for a local food bank or a homeless shelter, or they perform a community service together, some kind of community service project. On the website humanlight.org and in the Facebook group, we provide many suggestions and examples of what could be in a Human Light celebration. But of course, exactly how to celebrate, as I've said, either in a public event or privately at home, is open to people's imagination and creativity. For home decorations, a Human Light related color scheme has been suggested, and I think it's a great idea and have adopted it myself. It involves decorations of 3 colors, red, blue, and yellow or gold. And this is based upon the Human Light symbol colors. So of course there are many kinds of decorations, ornaments, candles, other things that can be obtained in these colors of red, blue, and yellow gold, and it can make for some very nice displays. In addition, there is a wide array of Human Light related merchandise that is available from evolvefish.com and also from Cafe Press, Human Light online store. You may have heard of Cafe Press. Both of these groups of merchandise can be accessed on the Human Light website page, web page, merchandise page, I want to say. So there's things like coffee mugs, sweatshirts, t-shirts, tote bags, tree ornaments, candles, lapel pins, greeting cards, postcards, coasters, stickers, music, CDs, and whatever. All things related to Human Light that can help make for a nice celebration. I have a lot of samples up here on this table of these things, which hopefully you'll take a look at. Also, with celebrating Human Light at home, it's important to remember it can be something very simple. A small gathering of friends and family for dinner or drinks. Put up some special decorations, play some music that's special, make toasts to each other, do a short reading of your favorite humanist author or something like that. In other words, it doesn't have to be a big production. But then again, getting back to a public group celebration where you want to have maybe a little more of a production. One example I think is great. A few years ago at NJHN, we developed a tradition of a brief candle lighting ceremony. And we start off the event with this candle lighting ceremony. We think it's a great idea, but of course I'm not saying that this is required for everyone to have a candle lighting ceremony to celebrate Human Light. If others want to do it though, it's a great idea and you're welcome to adopt or share this idea. It goes something like this. It says, in part, to help express the meaning of this holiday, we light candles rather than curse the darkness. We light candles to symbolize lighting the way forward to a better future for each other and for humanity. We believe that people can build this future working together, drawing upon the best of their human capacities. And then we'll have some of the children come up and light these 3 candles that symbolize the light and the warmth of the values of reason, compassion, and hope. And I have a display of 3 candles like this, of what we use usually. Now, I've also been asked quite often if Human Light involves exchanging gifts. Of course, if people want to exchange gifts, they're free to do so. If they so choose, I think that can be fine. Personally, however, I don't encourage it, because I think eventually it might lead to the kind of wasteful, excessive, materialistic consumerism that we see rampant with Christmas. What I like to suggest and encourage to people, instead of buying gifts for each other, I think it would be great to donate in honor of a loved one or on behalf of a loved one. Make a donation to your favorite activist group, your favorite charity, or something like that in their name. And that, to me, is doing something good to help make the world better, to improve our community, not just promoting spending on gifts for ourselves. That's my opinion. Some others have disagreed. But when we have our NJHN parties, we always ask people to bring in some food donation, and we make a group donation to the community food bank. In closing, I would like to share with you a short excerpt from a talk that was originally given in 2002 by Delhi Messenger, a humanist leader and a secular celebrant from Australia. It has, in my opinion, become one of the most valuable and meaningful short statements about human life. So, quoting Delhi Messenger, "This holiday celebration we have called Human Light, because just as we are conscious that the sun brings light and life to the physical universe, we realize that human beings can bring light and life to each other. Many of us call ourselves humanists. This means that we are dedicated to bringing light and life to our fellow human beings. The light we bring we usually call reason, which means the clearest and best thinking we have to guide our way through life's challenges. The life we bring is the love, the hope, and the compassion we have for our fellow human beings, for our environment, and for the world. We know that life brings sorrows, but it also brings its moments of happiness, enriching relationships, fun, and laughter. Human light means all these things. We get our light and our life and our love from our experience and from carefully listening to the best thoughts and insights from all kinds of sources. Thus, we live life as happily and responsibly as we can, and we bring to others and ourselves all the joy that we can. In short, we try to be enlightened and to bring to our local circle and to our world the human beauty and light which mirrors the beauty and color of the morning sunrise. We believe this is a good way to live, the best way to live. We feel good about this. We feel honest, authentic, and comfortable. We're well aware that we are often fragile on our own. So most importantly of all, we need to bond and to connect and to work with others and share. That is why our relationships with our loved ones and our friends and people who share our values are the most important things in our lives. That's why we are together here today. We're here to celebrate each other, to create and strengthen bonds, and to enjoy and have fun with each other in this traditional holiday season." Unquote. So I thank you all very much for listening and for coming to hear my talk today. I appreciate your being here. And we now have a brief video to show you.
We clap for you now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. And we have a short video. It's right behind the